Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
Hello and welcome to Waterfall. It's the water saving podcast brought to you by CCW. That's the Consumer Council for Water. I'm Mike and I'm here with Karen. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Mike.
You all right?
I'm fine, thank you.
On your perkiness rating, how much would you give yourself out of 10?
Oh, 5-ish.
Oh, blimey. Wow. Well, there's a downer to start the show. Tom, producer Tom's here, lurking. Tom, how are you? Now, how would you rate yourself?
I'm lurking and I'm perking. I would say I'm at least a 9.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah.
So that maybe Tom should be standing up, but step in as the co-host today, and Karen, you should lurk.
Big shoes to fill, Mike. I wouldn't want to do that.
That's true. So before we get into today's show, we've got a great show today because we're going down to the southwest, where we're looking at a couple of their campaigns they've been doing on water efficiency, because there's a real water resource challenge in the southwest, and we're looking at some of the things they're doing to help their customers use less water. So we've got a great guest coming up. Laura from Southwest Water is coming on in just a few minutes. Now, before we get into that, Karen, I listen to quite a few podcasts, including our own over and over again, which accounts for maybe 90% of our listening.
Roughly.
But some of the podcasts I listen to, they have adverts or ask people to subscribe and pay some money to listen. You know, maybe we should expand our business model. What do you reckon of that?
Well, I think the good thing about the Waterfall podcast is that we're not in a position where we need to do that. You know, we're not trying to promote any products or any particular agenda. You know, it's just about trying to give people more information and insight into water saving, hopefully money saving, and a little bit more of a look behind the curtain, as producer Tom would say, at what goes on within the water industry.
Yeah, I never have a clue when Tom uses these phrases like behind the curtain. But it's a good point, because we've got no hidden agenda here. We're just here to help people save more and save money and protect the environment and all that great stuff. So Karen, one more question I've got for you. Have you seen that you've been making the headlines? I think you know where I'm going with this.
I think I might do.
Can you recall what the headline is?
I think I was asked some questions about metering.
Well, the right topic. So if you go to BBC News website and just Google water expert, that you just have to, I think it's the second or third thing down, and Karen appears. Thames, here's the headline. And I know at first you looked worried because you thought maybe your life of crime was catching up with you, but those are different headlines for another day. Thames Water customers cannot refuse water meters, expert says. Guess who the expert is? Oh, it's Karen Gibbs. Wow. That's it, you're cemented. You're there, you're in the establishment as an expert.
It's interesting though, Mike, because I think you know, there is a really important role that CCW provide in trying to explain some of the things that do happen. You know, that unfortunately, a lot of the time people can take their water and wastewater services pretty much for granted. It's only occasionally where something happens that they have to sort of interact with their company in a different way. And the rollout of metering is obviously one of those occasions where there is a change in the arrangement that customer has, and it needs explaining. And
you are there as the trusted expert. That's good. I would trust you, Karen. I would, so expert, I think that's a bit of a downgrade on a guru, though, don't you?
Yeah, slightly. I mean, Swami also works.
Did you have a word with the BBC about that?
No. Stop pulling my leg, you two. Go on.
I refuse to talk to you unless you call me a guru. How dare you, water expert? I can't believe it. Anyway, right, we need to move on. So, if you do want to get in touch with Waterfall, there are a number of ways you can do that. You can email us. We have an email address that we, Karen?
We do, and that's podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
We're also on Instagram, so you can message us that way too. And it's Waterfall Podcast. If you want to find us on Instagram, you can see some wonderful pictures of us all. So do get in touch. Today's episode then. we've got a fabulous guest, Laura Flowerdew. She is the Chief Customer Officer for South West Water, and she's going to join us to tell us about some of their campaigns that they are doing to help people use less water. So I think, Karen, you need to really put a lid on your mucking about. I mean, I'm trying to take this back to serious points. You just keep taking us off course. So let's get back on course and let's bring on the guest.
This podcast is brought to you by CCW, the voice for water consumers.
So hi Laura, welcome to Waterfall. It's great that you could join us. So where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Bristol today, so in the head office for Bristol Water.
Lovely. So slightly confusingly, Bristol Water is now part of South West Water overall group, is that right?
That's right. So Bristol Water was acquired by Pennon, with that all completing last year. So now South West and Bristol are all part of the same operation.
One big water superpower.
That's one big happy family, we like to say, Mike.
Lovely, just like the Waterfall team. Tom's like the unruly child.
No. On the step uncle, I think, is more.
So we have, we're really keen to get you on, Laura, because we actually mentioned the campaign that you were running before Christmas called Stop the Drop, which really caught our eye because we really liked the fact that you were trying to do something different to drive behaviour change. Can you just tell our listeners, remind them what that was all about?
Yeah, so last year was one of the driest years on record in over 130 years. And in Devon and Cornwall, we're very reliant on rainfall for our water supplies. So by the end of October, despite that being a period when everybody's sort of forgotten about hot weather and droughts and things like that, our main reservoir in Cornwall, Colliford, was as low as 15% full. So we asked all the good people of Cornwall to help us let the reservoir recharge over the winter period, and we offered that we would take £30 off their bills if the reservoir recharged to 30% by the end of December. So we got a lot of communication out to customers. We talked to lots of customers. We offered free water saving devices. We got loads of great coverage on the local radio, BBC, ITV, and so on. So we got a really great response to it. And basically we were asking customers to take small steps to use less water, and as a community that would make a big difference to the reservoir levels. It was really good, actually. So just before Christmas, so before our deadline of 31st of December, we got to 30% full at Colliford Reservoir. So in very early January, we gave everybody in Cornwall £30 off their water bill.
Wow, and I can't think of another water company doing something like that. Am I right?
Absolutely. We like to think that it was a first to do such a wide-scale sort of incentive, as well as really the sort of breadth and depth of the comms and engagement we did with customers around it as well, I think was quite an unusual thing. So I guess we've done quite a lot of work to look at, did it make any impact? Did it make any difference? And based on the data that we have, we think it probably made maybe up to 5% difference, 4.6%, based on some measuring that we did to customer consumption over the period that we ran the incentive. So it really goes to show that customers will respond and will help, given the right information and the right incentive to do so.
There was something I really liked about the timing as well, because whilst you obviously had a key desire to get that reservoir levels raised, there was something in terms of the timing, just in terms of people's general finances, because January is a tough month anyway, particularly tough this year because of the cost of living crisis. So actually, there was something really nice about giving people some money back at a time when they're going to feel stretched.
Absolutely. So January is the perfect month, isn't it, really, to reduce people's bills? I think they really appreciate it. I think with also the level of focus we've had in the media and the people beginning to really feel the impact of the cost of living crisis, it was a really nice message to be able to give as well. And I think the thing that we always come back to as well is you're saving money on your water bill because you get the incentive. If you're on a water meter, you get the benefit through the consumption level of lower bills too. And then obviously a lot of water is heated before it's used, so you're also saving money on your energy bills. So sort of 3 ways that you could potentially benefit from using less water when we're running the incentive, and some of that continues now that campaign has stopped as it in that way, but to continue to incentivise people to use water efficiently going forward too.
Do you know how many people you actually managed to reach with the campaign? Because you were saying it made a 4.6% difference. That was on average, I'm guessing, right?
On average across all customer types, yeah. And that's based on it was a small sample that we took of certain customers where we could look at individual households and how much they use. Obviously, we don't have smart meters, sadly, do we, in the water industry yet? And so we can't measure everybody's consumption, but that's the best data we've got at the moment that shows that usage.
And how variable was that, though? So were there some people who actually really listened and did loads, and some people who just weren't even aware of the campaign? Do you know how successful you were in reaching people?
Yes. So absolutely, there's a big variety. Actually, one of the interesting things that we found is we had a sample that looked at different types of customers, and we looked at their consumption individually. So you could look at measured customers, metered customers. You look at customers that aren't on a meter, so just billed by rateable value, and then customers that were on capped tariffs. Some of our support tariffs. And interestingly, I think I went into this thinking that customers with water meters, where they get the benefit of lower consumption and the money back, might be the ones that responded most. But that was the lowest level of response. And I think that's because a lot of those customers might already be quite water savvy, quite difficult for them to make more savings. And actually those on capped tariffs or unmeasured tariffs really reduce their water usage, and for those on capped tariffs, it was on average, it was a relatively small sample, but on average it was about just under 10% savings. And I thought that was really interesting. By giving a different incentive, even those customers that actually from a consumption basis aren't usually incentivised really responded to what we did, and we saw some real impact coming through there of how they use less water.
And I guess that really does make the case for how important the communication with your customers becomes at times like this, doesn't it? Getting the messages out there in a way that people can actually respond to them.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's great, actually. It was a really great opportunity to talk to our customers and have something useful and positive to say to them, because we all know that actually most of the time you don't really want to hear from your water company. You just want to know that they're doing the right thing. You pay your bill, and you only really contact us if there's a problem. But actually being able to say we can help you save money, we can help you do the right thing for the environment and to help your community, gave us some great opportunities for messaging, and we had some really positive feedback. So to go out and do that comms, really explain some of the challenges and some of the great work that our people do across the company as well, was a really good opportunity to engage with customers and do something positive.
I mean, I think that's the key point here, isn't it? You weren't just relying on your customers reducing their usage. There must have been a whole range of things going on in the background that the company were doing to try to address the situation as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's really important that customers hear that as well, because otherwise they say, well, why should I do this? What about you? And let's face it, leakage is always a topic that comes up in that context as well. Why should we save water if there's water leaking out of your network? So it's a great opportunity to talk about how much work we're doing in that way, but also in the work that we're doing from an engineering perspective to make sure water supplies are resilient to all the different weather conditions that we're experiencing. So yes, great opportunity to tell our story and to talk about all the good things we're doing and to cast light on some of the other things. So we've been offering free leaks for customers, and we continue to do so. I think around 30% of leaks are on customer pipes, and that's probably an increasing proportion as more and more leaks, as our leakage levels improve. So actually putting the spotlight on that and helping customers where they might have a leak, both to reduce their water bill but also reduce wastage, was another great opportunity through this campaign.
So I've been snooping on your reservoir levels, and Colliford, which was the reservoir that you were worried about in the winter, that's 51.3 was the figure I saw on your website 2 nights ago. So you're still not out of the woods, right? And it's been pretty dry throughout some parts of the winter. So you're not out of the woods, and you've got this follow-on campaign, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were making good progress. It takes a long time for some of these big reservoirs to refill, but as I said, we reached the target of 30% for Colliford, slightly ahead of when we'd targeted, which was great. We're continuing to do lots of things to ensure that the reservoirs recharge, but what we've then hit is a really, really dry February. So in Cornwall, we had about 22% of average rainfall. That means that in a period which is normally really wet, and it's a great period for the reservoirs to refill, simply hasn't had that level of rainfall. So despite all sorts of other things going on to help recharge, Colliford and indeed our other reservoir, Rodeford in Devon, have been struggling over that period, just because again we continue to have really dry weather. Might not feel like it always, but we have had really dry weather. So we've launched an evolution, I'm going to say, of Stop the Drop to save every drop, because we know weather aside, it's really important that we use water wisely, and we ask customers to ensure that they're using water efficiently to protect our natural environment. But what we're seeing actually is that with this ongoing dry weather, we remain technically in drought. That's not an assessment we make as a company, but we are still in drought in Devon and Cornwall, and reservoirs aren't as full as we would like them to be at this time of year. So we are going back out, doing lots more comms, lots more focus to ask customers to be careful with their water usage, and again take those little steps that together make a real difference to the amount of water that we use.
So with Stop the Drop, you obviously had quite an eye-catching centrepiece to that. You do your bit and we'll give you 30 quid. Does Save Every Drop have any sort of a equivalent hook to it?
We aren't launching an incentive at this. We are trying to talk to customers about how precious our water resources are, and how actually this isn't just a one-off, but something that we're asking customers to think about on an ongoing basis, and nudging them, I guess, asking them very nicely to continue to make those small changes in the way they behave to really ensure that we're not using water that we don't need to. So it's the same themes, it's the same concept really, but asking that to continue and to focus on it. We're also, our region in Devon and Cornwall is I'm sure you're aware, a real focus for visitors and tourists. So we're trying to build into that as well, and make sure that as we approach Easter, we're also not just talking to local residents and communities, but we're also talking to visitors across the region as they come in, to make sure that they're aware as well of our precious resources and how they use them wisely while they're on holiday.
And how are you doing that?
Well, we've got all sorts of plans. So we've got some leaflets and campaign and comms that will go out that's focusing on visitors and trying to talk to them to make them aware. We're trying to make sure that's distributed across the region in all sorts of visitor locations, where you go to those tourist information, you get all the leaflets. We'll have some water saving tips and advice there. And then just some clever digital and technical advice as well. So you can, apparently when somebody's gone into the region through their mobile phone usage that you might not normally know, and we can advertise and provide messaging and so on through some of those things. So we're also looking at all sorts of stakeholders that we can work with, businesses and so on in the region, to make sure we get messages out as much as we can.
What you mean, like sort of hotels and campsites and things like that? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, we're also working and targeting businesses. So if you're a campsite or a hotel, then water is one of your main inputs, isn't it, for your customers? And so there's a prime opportunity of saying, can we help you fit water efficient devices, check whether you've got leaky loos, check whether you've got any leaks on your premises, and that will save money, save on your water bills, save energy bills, because effectively you're making sure that you've got an efficient flow of water for your visitors that's still absolutely sufficient, but means we're not wasting water as we go through. So some of it's trying to get in at source, and then some of it's trying to get the messaging out to the visitors when they're there as well.
CCW, passionate about championing the best interests of everyone who uses water, now and in the future.
I like the idea of using technology, to be able to target when people go in and out of your region. That's a really smart move. You've also got the advantage, though. Have you thought about this? And this is another gift from the waterfall team to you. There's that car park that everyone uses in Devon and Cornwall in the summer, called the M5. You could just walk around, and as they're just sitting there in their parked cars, you could just walk around, hand them out leaflets.
We are looking at, I'm not sure we're going to walk around the motorway. That doesn't sound like it would quite meet our health and safety requirements. But we are looking into, with the drought continuing, whether we could put messaging, for example, on highway signage to say you're entering a drought zone, use water wisely, or whether actually we could advertise some of the campaign at the side of the motorway. As you go down, you often see adverts, don't you, in farmers' fields and things like that. So we're exploring all sorts of different things to try and make sure we're getting the message across in the right way, in a safe way, but to visitors as well as customers and local communities.
How long's the Save Every Drop campaign been running then? Is it just started?
We started it, I couldn't give you an exact date, but it sort of early February, I think.
Okay, now, the reason why I was asking is I used to live in Exeter, so I asked some of my friends earlier in the week, I WhatsApp my group, and these are all fairly clever, engaged people. Well, some of them are, to be fair, maybe one of them are. And I said, so Save Every Drop, how's that campaign going? And they hadn't heard of it, you see, so I was just interested in how new or fresh it was, and actually there's you're not hitting middle-aged men in their 40s.
Okay, noted. I'm going to go back and note that. I know that we had a reach, these are comm statistics, but a reach of over 2.5 million views, or however you just define it, on social media digital campaigns in February, but we are also ramping it up. So we focused on digital during February. So maybe it depends on whether you're 40s, middle-aged men look at the right things. I don't know, on social media where we've been advertising.
I don't know if you can advertise on fortnights. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure that's our target market, I have to confess. But we are also then looking to launch the campaign out and about as well, outside on posters and billboards and buses and all those sorts of usual events. So that will help. Had they heard of, different question then, had they heard about our desalination plants?
Ooh, I didn't get as far as that. They did ask a question, actually. If you do, sorry, I didn't come prepared to ask questions that have been WhatsApped to me by my extensive customer research. But there was a question related to desal, because there was a question about, okay, demand side is one thing, but what about generating new resources? So I think you've just given a clue to the answer there. So are you developing new resources? Because obviously asking your customers to reduce their usage makes loads of sense for loads of reasons, and you don't need to convince us that that's a good idea. But that's part of the equation is also developing new resources, or could be.
So I guess it goes back to what we were saying earlier, doesn't it, about we're doing huge amounts as a company to make sure we've done everything we possibly can to plan for an extended dry period this summer and to make sure our water resources are resilient. And one of those things that we've been exploring is desalination plants. So we're currently looking to build 2 desalination plants in the region, which would provide nearly a third of Cornwall's water. So actually we've been whereas before Christmas we talked a lot about Stop the Drop because it had this £30 incentive, and customers were really interested in it, and we got a lot of media coverage about the progress we were making towards that. A lot of the sort of media and the focus that we've had from the press and the like has been on desalination plants, which was a continuation of that conversation. So our drought director David Harris was being interviewed by the BBC the other day on the desalination plants, and that's caught quite a lot of imagination. So that's one of the things that we're doing to try and make sure we've got robust, resilient water supplies across the region, but there's all sorts of other things going on as well. And obviously, desal is quite a novel thing as well. There's not that many uses of it yet in this country.
Just in terms of desal, though, I'm guessing this would not be ready for this summer. I've never heard of a desal being up and running within 6 months.
I know we are trying for the fastest desal known to man, but no, probably not in time for this summer. Towards this, yes, certainly in the second half of the year, but we're definitely targeting this year, by the end of this year.
And how concerned are you about the water resource situation then for Cornwall and Devon, as you said, going into this summer? Give us what's your concern level?
Well, we are monitoring the situation very carefully, coming off the back of last year where it was so dry, and as you say, the reservoirs are very low. It is a cause for concern, which is why we're doing everything we can to ensure that we're planning for everything we possibly can do to make our supplies resilient. So we have all sorts of complex modelling that lets us look at where do we think different scenarios would outturn, and effectively planning for the worst, but very much hoping for the best. But we're trying to ensure that we plan for every scenario so that we can provide water to customers across our region.
I reckon if Karen books a holiday in Cornwall, you're guaranteed it to be a deluge between now and then.
Come on, Karen, book away.
Yeah, I'll come down there shortly. No, I was just going to say, you mentioned that there's obviously a lot of work going on behind the scenes, looking at other ways of securing supplies as such. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what some of those things are? Because I'm presuming you're working very closely with the Environment Agency on all this.
Yes, we are, absolutely. So one of the things that we've looked at consistently is ensuring, we have permits to abstract water from rivers and lakes and so on. One of those is to make sure that we're working very closely to optimise those. That's working with the Environment Agency to make sure we're taking out water when we can, particularly when it has rained and water levels through rivers and so on are high. We have minimal impact on them, but it allows us to take water out, pop it into the reservoirs, that's not what the engineering folks say. And then that's there for when we need it later in the year. So there's a lot of work going on about abstraction, making sure we're optimising the licence, and if there's any other areas that without impacting the environment, we can abstract additional water. Leakage is a massive theme at the moment. The more we can do to reduce our leakage, the better. So we are looking at, we're continuing to fix customer side leaks. We're looking at non-household business customers, whether there are leaks on there, and making sure obviously on our own network as well, we're going to get as find and fix as many leaks as we possibly can. There are we did quite a lot of tankering, some of those things around the region, and we're looking at how we move water from different resources into the reservoirs, so that even if something it might be full now, but rather than I guess leave it there, there's an opportunity sometimes to pump the water out of one reservoir or quarry, move it into a larger reservoir and let both of those elements then fill. So when rain comes, we're getting benefit of filling up two elements. So all sorts of work going on in order to try and strengthen the position we are in from that perspective as well.
So if you're a resident of Devon or Cornwall or a South West Water customer, wherever you live, what would your kind of message to them be in terms of assuring them that the water supplies will be resilient into the future?
Well, I guess my main message would be save every drop. Our water resources are really precious, but everybody can make a difference. So please do think about how you use water. It's the message you always give on this podcast, I think, as well. Think about the water that you use. Make sure, you keep your showers short. You only fill up the kettle with what you need, and all of those other good things to make sure that we're protecting our natural environment and our water resources, and it ensures that our water supply is resilient over the summer, come what may.
And if they're worried about running out of water, what would you say to them?
We are taking so many steps to make sure that we're resilient as a company. We're really, really focused on making sure that we've done everything we possibly can so that we can continue to provide water. It's not that we're sitting here just letting rain fall as it will or won't, but we're absolutely taking every possible step we can, working with partners, supply chain, etc., to make sure that we remain resilient.
One of the things that I like down in Devon and Cornwall that you've been doing is, this is my question. On the weather forecast, they quite often mention water resources. There's David Brain, I think, is your forecaster down there. Was that something that South West Water pushed, or is that just something that they did because they understood the seriousness of the situation?
Yeah, I think I think there are a few things, but I think they understand. They're very interested in the water resources generally, I think, and so when we've had this dry spell, the situation of the reservoirs has been, actually of interest to them personally, and then obviously we've built around. More generally around the dry weather, we've built these campaigns and so on to ensure customers are aware and are helping us stop the drop. So they've really picked up on that. They've been fascinated, really, I think, by all the steps we're taking, the work we're doing, and where the reservoirs are going. So it's had a phenomenal amount of interest and reaction. But if I talk to the journalists at the BBC, they also say our customers, I guess, are also really interested in this. So they get a huge reaction when they do pieces around water resources, about the desal plant and so on and so forth. People are really, really interested in finding out more. So I think it's both a personal interest, but also a broader interest as well, that they get a really great response.
I mean, Devon and Cornwall is they're beautiful counties, and the natural environment down there is amazing. So that kind of first step of appreciating how vital water is to the environment and the economy, of course, because of all the holiday makers. So you feel like there's a few steps that actually work to your advantage in terms of making that connection between water and livelihoods and nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cornwall's a peninsula, it's surrounded by water, isn't it? And it's really part of people's everyday lives, I think. So that natural environment is very precious to them because it's the environment, because they appreciate that, because they're surrounded by it. Day-to-day activities focus on it, and often it's a source of livelihoods and drives the economy. So it's really in people's hearts, I think, and therefore they are very interested in how they can support and how they can react. One of the things we did actually with Stop the Drop was I had some of my teams going out and talking to customers, so knocking on their doors and talking to them about water efficiency, offering water saving devices. And it was fascinating actually about how customers really felt they were already doing a lot. And I think maybe that's borne out by our metering customers when we looked at how their consumption, and they did reduce it, but actually by relatively low amounts compared to some of the others. And I think that just goes to show actually our customers do really appreciate water resources, the environment, and are trying very hard already to do their bit for water efficiency.
We are really interested on campaigns here at Waterfall, particularly ones that are focused at helping people to save water and save money and all that great stuff. So, good luck to you. And we really want to find out how it all pans out, and if you're coming up with any more new ideas for campaigns that can really be effective, because that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, that it's difficult to reach people and it's difficult to change people's behaviours. So we're really keen to identify where people are being effective at that. So the Stop the Drop, that was great. And, let's see what happens now with Save Every Drop.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things is you have to keep the focus on it as well. There's so many things, aren't there, that happen in people's lives. And people, habits are so entrenched about things like water use that you can't do a campaign for, a couple of months and then assume that will change people's habits and, lifestyles forever. So I do think you have to do that continual nudging as well to remind people. So I think that's a really important element of it as well, which is really why we want to, keep going with Save Every Drop. No matter what the water resource position is, really, to get people to continue to use water as effectively as possible.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Laura. Let's check in again and find out how it's all gone. So, Laura, before you escape, we've got to ask you, as we ask most of our guests, what your personal water use is. Do you know?
Well, I do. I looked on my last water bill, and I always do because, being in the industry, I'd spend a lot of time talking about water efficiency, so I thought I'd better understand how much I use. And I was really pleased to say my water bill showed that I used 70 litres per day, which I think is quite good. That said, I think I perhaps cheated somewhat because I have had a house renovation done, and I think in some of that period probably I had no water use going through. So I think that will increase a little bit, but I like to think that notwithstanding, I would still have a reasonably good level of water usage.
So, Dom, are you just confessing to some sort of white-collar crime there? Stealing water from yourself? Do your employers know that you were not using water and not paying for it?
I wasn't using water and not paying for it. The water was switched off.
Oh, it's switched off. Yeah. Oh, I thought your meter was just disconnected for a bit.
No. There is a story about that one too, but the team here are fully aware and came to sort me out. Very kindly. But no, so I think there was a period in my water bill where effectively there wasn't any water being used, and then the children and I moved back in, and therefore now there is water use. So I think that's an average which will creep up, but I would like to think it's probably still around 100, 110.
So 70 was the figure though that you were getting from your bill. That's
the bill.
Pretty impressive figure. It's a shame we didn't have another entry to our confessional slot on Waterfall there. There's no crime. There's no crime to be admitted. No. That's a shame. But well done. You should have just stuck on 70 and not said you think it's higher.
I would have felt that was misleading. I'm very honest, despite your accusations of theft.
That's the lowest so far this series. Yeah. To be fair, it's not a big pool of people. Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. And
thank you.
I hope you enjoyed your waterfall experience.
Been great. Thank you very much indeed.
Be sure to head back through the archives and check out all the past episodes of Waterfall. Wow,
so that was Laura Flowerdew. I struggle saying Flowerdew. I don't know why, but I do. Anyway, that was Laura. Let's just stick with that from South West Water. Good to have her on and hear what she has to say. Karen, what do you make of all of that then?
I thought it was really interesting, and I think, it just goes to show the challenges that climate change is going to present to all the water companies. There's this constant balancing act between the amount of water people want and need and what's available in the environment. And
have you got your brochure out to find your holiday destination in Devon and Cornwall?
Yes, I mean, I'll do my bit if they want my help.
But this is, joking aside, this is one to watch for this summer because, I know there's this sort of perception that we live in such a wet country, but, it doesn't take too much to push some parts of the country where water is scarce, over the edge into drought. And we just need to make sure we are staying alert and actually helping each other because as we've said countless times, you can save a lot of water without making big sacrifices.
Absolutely. And I think, the other interesting dimension to this is obviously, the Southwest gets a lot of visitors. And it's the importance not only of the people that live there all the time, but the people that are visiting the area, also consider what they're using water for and trying to do their bit as well.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see how successful they are at being able to connect with visitors into the southwest. Right, we need to stop because we've basically completely run out of time. So before we go, let's just remind everyone you can get in touch with Waterfall at the following email address,
which is podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
And you can check out producer Tom's cheeky little face on our Instagram account. It's Waterfall Podcast. So check that out and drop us a message.
And everyone go back in the archives as well, is what I want to stress. And leave us an iTunes review, please, as well.
That's a great point. If you
5 star.
And if you do like what you hear, please do subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. So it's goodbye from me, Mike.
It's goodbye from me, producer Tom.
And it's goodbye from me, Karen.